One of my favorite things about mission-minded leaders is that they love growth. They know that the products and services that they are bringing to the marketplace are there to change lives, to make them better, safer, more efficient. And they know that the more that they grow, the more lives they get to impact. The problem is somewhere along the line, leaders start being strategic about the way that they grow themselves and their people. You see, in the beginning, in that startup phase, if you will, it's all hands on deck, and it's obvious where the gaps are, where growth needs to happen to be able to close that gap. See, I was having a conversation with a couple of leaders of a startup recently, and they were talking about the place that they're in right now. They've had some success. They're kind of in that scale up mode. They've got finances that are coming in. And what they're realizing is that neither one of them have much accounting or finance background, and they needed to decide between them who needed to get skilled up in that area, because they are noticing there's a clear strategic need for at least one of them to be able to grow and close the gap between where they are now and where they'd like to be in terms of strategic decision making around their finances. Unfortunately, what I see happening over and over is once an organization gets established, they've been successful, they allocate money for growth and development of themselves and their teams. But what isn't clearly defined is how they need to grow and develop to be able to meet a strategic need. So there's this gap that ends up happening where people don't understand. They're like, okay, hey, there's a training budget. In fact, I was having a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago where they were saying, yeah, we have money and it's kind of part of our evaluation every year saying, hey, where do we want to grow this year? But because there's no strategic alignment between where we need to grow and where it hits the individual contributor, funds oftentimes just go unused. And then once those funds start getting unused, then training development budgets start getting cut. People aren't as effective in their jobs and people start growing. The organization then starts to suffer. And ultimately, it's the mission that pays the price because the mission and the impact on the world gets stunted. So here's my challenge to you today. Take a look at your strategic goals. Where are your growth gaps? What is the difference between where you are today and where you would like to be? Is it a knowledge gap in a certain area? Do you have an innovation gap? Do you have a people gap? Do you just need more people to raise up in order to be able to do the things that you need them to do? Is it a communication gap? If you were able to communicate better and break down silos, could you get where you need to be strategically? Is it a synergy gap? Are you having a hard time aligning all of your pieces together to gain synergy and momentum? Once you've identified your gap, use your resources to develop yourself and your people to close that gap. Now, if you need help to identify that gap or strategically develop your team or yourself, reach out to me for a complimentary consultation. The world needs you and your organization to be able to contribute the best of who you are. And growth, like leadership, is a journey. It's not a destination, and you don't have to journey alone.